Dustin the Diamond Poirier is going to be competing for the BMF Championship. It's this weekend against Justin Gaethje, and this is a crazy rematch. If you watched the first fight, I imagine that there are going to be fireworks involved this time around. So when you think about that first fight, if you were to say the fight against Justin Gaethje was the most blank fight of my career, what would you fill in that blank?
Uh, um, One of the funnest, for sure. One of the funnest.
So when you say it's one of the funnest, does that mean you're looking forward to it more than you are nervous about it?
Nah, it's a healthy mix of both, for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned to Ariel Hawani in an interview, Beneil Dariush was offered to you, and you weren't sure if that fight was going to give you the same kind of butterflies that you want as a fight with Gaethje would. If you were to look back at your recent fights, or any of your fights really, when was the last fight that you didn't have those butterflies going in, or you felt like there wasn't enough of that going in?
Um, I don't even know. I've had them in all the ones that I can think about in the last couple of years. They were all big fights, dangerous. They're very dangerous opponents. A lot on the line. I usually have it.
Yeah, so there's not a time like at any point in time where you're like, I wish I was more, more nervous about this fight. Like I feel like it feels like it's going to be too easy. Like Charles Jourdain, for example, he's of course a Canadian fighter in the UFC, has always told me those are the fights that he wants, or the ones that like keep him up at night, that he's scared of his opponents. He doesn't really want to have an opponent that he's not scared of because he feels like he doesn't fight at his best. Do you kind of have that same sort of feeling?
Yeah, for sure. If I'm going to commit myself to a 9-week training camp and wake up every day and run the miles and put in all the work, I want to have that fear that motivates me, for sure, 100%.
Another thing that you've been doing is sleeping in an altitude tent at night. What's that like?
It's cool. The first couple of nights was a little bit different, but I got used to it. Um, I was sleeping at 5,000 feet down in South Florida. So I kind of every few days would bump up the altitude. I think I started maybe at 2,500 or 2,800, and then every 2 days I would bump it up 300 or 400 feet. And it was cool, different. I've never had to do something like that.
So for those that aren't familiar, what exactly is an altitude tent? How does it work?
Dude, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I know like a lot of triathletes or bikers who have big competitions coming up at altitude, they'll start prepping by using a tent. So a company called Higher Peak makes these tents that wrap around your whole bed. So you're sleeping, your bed's inside of a tent hooked up to this machine that you can set the altitude. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it works.
Were you sleeping alone those nights? I would imagine. I imagine Jolie's not going on the ride with you for this particular camp when it comes to sleep.
Nah, she slept with my daughter in her bedroom, where we have a place out in training camp. I slept in the tent alone.
Did she try it out at all by out of curiosity, try taking a nap or something at altitude?
Nah, she never even got in it. My When I unzip it and leave it all open, my daughter was playing in it like a little, playhouse. But my wife never slept in it.
When you think of the conditions of this fight, it's a potential 25-minute fight at altitude against Justin Gaethje. Is that like the toughest kind of mental challenge that you've had put in front of you before the fight itself, in terms of what you have to overcome going into a fight like that?
Nah, honestly, I'm not putting a whole lot of energy into it. I did the prep with the tent just to help me out if altitude would be the case, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I'm not really focused on that a whole lot. It's just going to be another crazy fight with Justin.
When did you get into town, and have you noticed a difference in the air since you've gotten there?
I got in Friday morning, early Friday, um, but I'm up here in the mountains. I'm like, I don't know how far above Salt Lake, but I'm at 5,300 feet, I think, here in the mountains. I haven't really noticed a whole lot. I went on a 5 mile run yesterday. I've been hiking the mountain trails here where I'm at. It feels normal.
So the BMF championship is on the line for this fight. If you were to describe what it means to be a BMF, how would you describe that?
You have to be a guy who's had a lot of fights in the UFC where they know every time you fight, you leave it all out there and bring it. Same. Obviously, Justin is one of those guys. You have a track record of fight of the nights, of trying to finish guys. Those are the people who would be considered to fight for this title.
If you were to name, say, three other people in the UFC that you feel exude those qualities of a BMF outside of yourself and Justin, and of course, like the others that have fought for Nate and Jorge, who are some people that come to mind in your opinion?
Uh, I don't know. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I wish I could have thought about this question a little bit longer. There's so many fighters and so many dogs out there that do leave it all. Um, that's a tough one, bro. I'd have to sit back and think about that.
I had a feeling you'd answer that. Nobody wants to answer that question because if you forget somebody, if you forget a teammate, then well, well, I'm not a BMF.
Not even a teammate. Yeah, not even a teammate. It's just so many tough guys. To list three on the spot is hard to do.
Is it harder to list three people that are BMFs or three people that are definitely not BMFs in the UFC? Like if you said unequivocally, this person will never fight for the BMF championship. Like, is that easier for you?
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, that would be really throwing someone under the bus. Like forgetting somebody isn't really throwing someone under the bus, but actually saying like that person is not a BMF, it's probably a little bit different.
Yeah, I'm not going to walk that route.
So what would it mean to you to have Jorge Masvidal, one of your frequent training partners over the years, put that belt around your waist on Saturday night?
It'd be incredible, man. We'd bringing another BMF title back to American Top Team, having it put on me by a buddy who I've been training with for 10 years. Would be awesome, man. It's a legacy. It's a legacy fight. That's what this is about.
I saw another person that you trained with for this camp, a gentleman by the name of Alden Carey. He was somebody who survived non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and about a year ago weighed like 118 pounds, couldn't use his legs, could barely talk. He survived, he rang the bell, and one of his wishes was to come and train with you. So what did that mean to you, and what do you think that meant to him to be able to have that opportunity?
It seemed like he enjoyed it, and I could tell he was a big fight fan. He knew a lot of things. It's incredible, man. Just happy to have the opportunity to meet him, a real fighter, somebody who's overcome something that nobody even wants to talk about. He's the real fighter, and it's awesome because my sponsor Celsius is flying him and his family here for the fight, so he's going to be in attendance. Um, it's great. I've been keeping in touch with him every day. I gave him my number, so while the fights are going on, we've been texting back and forth. He's a really nice kid and a cool person, man. He's a real champ.
Yeah, it's very cool. It was very cool to see his story. You can see that on YouTube if you haven't had the opportunity as of yet. Now, of the UFC fighters that have put products out, and I know you have some new products that are coming out, but the hot sauces, they're made with a Canadian company called Heartbeat Hot Sauces, and I've got to say I love them. My son and I love having the Creole sauce, or Creole sauce rather, on nachos and cheese. We make nachos and cheese and put that on. And he's 12, but he can handle the heat. Took him a little bit of time to work his way up. But what do you use that sauce for the most?
Dude, I put on everything from breakfast to dinner. Eggs, chili, tacos. I use them all. The only time I really break out the KO sauce, because it's just too hot, is like if I'm making a big pot of something where I want to heat, add some heat to a big portion. But I'm not putting that on every bite. The other two sauces, the OG and the Creole Maple, I got them on the table here. I just ate breakfast with them.
I don't think I've tried. Is the KO sauce the newest one? I don't think I've tried the KO sauce just yet.
No, KO sauce was the middle. We have three sauces. KO was the second, and it's made with ghost peppers, and it'll light you up, man.
Yeah, I got to try that one out. The Creole Maple is a big favorite in this household. So thank you for that. We appreciate that. And shout out to Heartbeat, good Canadian company. Now, after
great
company. Those guys are awesome. And they just put out a new one called Campfire that I got to try. Looking forward to that.
Camp sauce.
Yeah, camp sauce. So I'm looking forward to trying that one out. That's should be a good addition to the rack. Now, after this, you're going home, and you're going to be, I heard you mention this to Mike Bond, putting together backpacks for kids that are going back to school in Lafayette. So what's that initiative mean to you, and how's the foundation been going?
Well, the foundation's been going great. Every goal we set, we accomplish. But when I get home next week, I'm handing out the backpacks to the parents and to the kids with my foundation and with some volunteers. But this is the first time, because we do this annually. This is the first time that I wasn't there in person packing the backpacks and breaking down the school supplies. So that kind of, I felt bad when I was in training camp and couldn't be there, but I'm just thankful that we have a team and volunteers and family and people who are willing to dedicate their time and sweat in the warehouse and pack these backpacks, because it takes a long time to get all these things done.
Absolutely. And final question: when you had the two fights with McGregor, obviously those do a lot for you financially. How much has that helped the foundation? Like being able to, I guess, take some of those resources that you've been able to acquire from having those two massive fights and put them into doing more and more initiatives with your foundation.
It was great, you know. We did huge things with the Boys and Girls Club, um, and that's just it. It's just getting the momentum and making more people hear about the foundation and things we've done and things we plan to do. We have the backpack drive coming up, and then we have the St. Jude's 5K coming up in September, and we're just going to keep it moving. You know, keep doing great things and trying to fight the good fight.
Well, we always appreciate having you as such a great ambassador for mixed martial arts in the public eye and doing all of these great charitable initiatives for your hometown. Thank you so much for this. Appreciate you. It's UFC 291, the BMF Championship. Yourself, Justin Gaethje. You don't want to miss that rematch. I mean, if you don't watch this fight, I don't know what's going to get you into MMA. Or you're just not. I hate to say, you're not a real fan. If you're not interested in this fight, you're probably just not a real fan. Is that fair to say?
That's fair. I agree with you 100%.